Hey there, folks, and welcome to the NEOECO Airbrush channel. Today, we're diving into the world of airbrushing, where precision is key. Within the airbrush system, we've got two crucial channels, the air channel and the paint channel. These channels are like the lifeblood of our airbrush, carrying air and liquid to create those stunning works of art. Naturally, we want these channels to be leak-free. Any leaks, especially in the air channel, can spell trouble, leading to annoying airbrush issues. Now, let's talk about the unsung heroes of our airbrush system, O-rings. These little guys, usually made from rubber or Teflon, play a huge role in sealing our channels. But unlike their metal counterparts, they have a shorter lifespan. The longevity of these O-rings depends on several factors: the materials used, the types of solvents and paints we use, how often we airbrush, and how well we maintain our equipment. Harsh solvents can really do a number on rubber O-rings, causing them to swell or crack over time. And if you're an avid airbrush user, your O-rings are going to wear out faster than someone who only dabbles occasionally. But fear not. With some TLC, we can extend the life of our O-rings. Regular cleaning and lubrication with suitable oils like airbrush cleaner or isopropyl alcohol can do wonders. But hey, let's face it, broken O-rings are bound to happen sooner or later. Picture this: it's a lazy Sunday morning, you're all set to start painting, and bam! Your airbrush decides to take an unexpected break. Air leaks, paint leaks, it's all pointing to those pesky O-ring problems. Frustrating, right? But don't sweat it. We're in this together, and we'll get through it. So, let's roll up our sleeves and tackle the issue head on. First things first, we've got to disassemble the airbrush. Today, I'll be using the SJ83 airbrush to show you how it's done. Don't worry if you've got a different model like 116B, I'll cover that in our next video. Now, gather your tools: tweezers, pliers, wrench, airbrush repair tools, and a soft cloth. Let's start by removing the front part first. I'll use this small wrench from the airbrush kit to remove the air cap. It's easy to do, just unscrew it. Put the auto-centering nozzle system aside, and then remove the handle. The thread on the handle is very smooth, and I can get it off easily. The airbrush itself looks beautiful. Unscrew the nut and take the needle out. There are O-rings inside this nut, so we need to remove it. We'll use pliers for the job. To avoid damaging the airbrush, I'll wrap it in a cloth. Then, use the pliers to unscrew the nut. You might feel a little resistance due to the O-ring inside, but it shouldn't be too much. Once it loosens, you can use your fingers to remove it. It's easy. Now, we can see the black O-ring on it. I'll use tweezers for the next step. When removing O-rings, tweezers are the most frequently used tool. Carefully insert the tweezers from the bottom. I want to emphasize that if the airbrush or the seal isn't actually broken, please don't remove it unnecessarily. The seal fits tightly to the body of the airbrush and isn't easy to remove, making it easy to break. And there is another black O-ring on the air cap. Let's remove that one too. It requires a lot of patience, and be careful not to hurt your hands. Okay, I did it, but unfortunately, the O-ring seems broken. If you are replacing it with a new one, it's not a problem. Look, there's a white O-ring here on this part. I'm going to apply sideways pressure with the tweezers and drag this white seal out. Do the same in the opposite direction on the other side. It's easier to remove it that way. Set it aside so we can easily find it when we reinstall it later. Now let's remove the intake air valve. There's also a black O-ring on it. Remove that as well and put it aside. Next, remove the trigger and unscrew this gold part. This gold part is a spring case, so be mindful to unscrew it slowly, or the spring might be lost when it comes off. We can see there are two O-rings here. They are used for providing some resistance while screwing, and they are generally not broken, so we won't remove them this time. You can remove them if you want, but be careful not to break the seals. Let's remove the cup next. Oops! There is an O-ring to seal it, take it off. This one is very easy. Put it aside with the other parts. And what's next? We can see there's an O-ring inside this small hole. I will use the tweezers to remove it as well. This seal is stuck in the slot on the inside, and it will take a while to get it off. You can try to push the two sides of the seal towards the center, for example, push the left side up and the right side down, so that the seal stands upright in the middle. Then we can use tweezers to yank it out. Put this O-ring aside. There's another seal that's easy to forget about here. This seal is used to block the paint channel in the back half of the airbrush. If it's not tightened or it leaks, then the paint will flow backward into the trigger. I will use this tool to unscrew the copper nut first. If you don't have this tool, you can check the link below to get it. It's a bit tight. There it comes off. And there's a very small white O-ring here, but it's hard to see. It's too dark inside. I'll find one in my replacement O-ring set to show you how it looks. Here it is, a very small one. It's better to push it out from the front with the flat side of your needle. Don't use the sharp side, or it will bend. Stabbing diagonally backwards, you can stab diagonally to the left and then diagonally to the right. This makes it easier to remove. Then you can tap down on the body of the airbrush because the seal is actually loose but stuck in there, and just vibrate it out downwards. Okay, it comes off, very tiny. Let's put it aside. Now, let's see which O-rings are left, both from the front and back. Let's check how many O-rings have been removed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's an O-ring on the MAC valve. I'll get it off. Let's use the wrench to do the job, adjust it to the proper opening size, and unscrew it. Okay, we can see a black O-ring here. Using my tweezers again. There are actually two O-rings on this valve, the other one is inside the valve. First, we need to remove the copper nut here. You can use this special tool for the job, like this. But I prefer to use tweezers as they make the task easier. Don't worry about the size of the holes if you use tweezers. Simply unscrew it like this, very easy. Inside, you'll find a spring and a gold part. Here's the O-ring. This one is very difficult to remove without damaging it. I'll just show you where it is and how it looks, but I won't remove it in this video. If you want to change it, you'll need to damage it and replace it with a new one. Done. Now we have removed all the O-rings here. Let's put them back in the right place. I'll assemble this valve first since it was the last one we disassembled. Take this gold part and make sure the O-ring is on the top. Then, assemble the spring with it like this and put it back into the valve. Next, pick up the copper nut. Insert it and screw on the nut like this. Let's test if it's in good condition. Good, it works smoothly. Put it aside. Now, let's install the small white O-ring. We'll need tools for this job. Use the airbrush needle and insert it through the small white O-ring hole. Be careful not to injure your finger. Okay, it's in the right place. Then, insert the needle into the center hole of the airbrush. The needle tip bends easily, so be careful. Insert the needle as you usually would when replacing it. Use the needle to guide the O-ring into place. It might not be in the best position initially, so use this tool to adjust it. Let me check. Oh yes, it's in the right place. Next, use this tool to screw the nut on. Make sure this nut is tightened properly, or the paint might flow back to your trigger. Finally, let's install this big white O-ring. Before we install it, let's carefully examine the O-ring. You'll notice that the two sides of the O-ring have different shapes. One side has a rounded chamfer, while the other does not. The rounded chamfer side should face forward to make installation easier. If you install it the other way, you won't be able to put the O-ring on properly, and its shape will change. So, be careful. Place the O-ring in position, then pick up the nozzle and flatten the O-ring with the beveled surface around the nozzle. Done. Next, install the O-ring onto the front nut. Just as we removed it, when installing, wrap it with a cloth and tighten it with pliers. Then, install the air cap O-ring. Place the nozzle onto it and install them onto the airbrush. Make sure to tighten the air cap properly, otherwise, there will be bubbling in your cup. Continue by installing the O-ring onto the fluid cup and attaching the cup to the airbrush. Then install the O-ring onto the MAC valve and attach it to the airbrush. There's a slot in there for the O-ring. We're going to place the O-ring in the slot and adjust it to a centered position. Okay, next, let's install this O-ring on the valve. Then attach the valve to the airbrush. Finally, install the remaining parts of the airbrush. Ensure that the side with the pattern is facing forward. That's all for today. I hope this video is helpful for you. I want to emphasize that you shouldn't dismantle the O-ring unless necessary because they are easy to break. If they do break, you'll need to replace them, which can be costly. However, if you do encounter problems, follow the steps shown in this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave a comment and we will respond to you later. Thanks, and see you next time.
How to airbrush tutorial video. How to clean and maintenance airbrush. How to choose the paint. Airbrush basics. All in NEOECO Airbrush official web.